Welcome to the podcast, The Process. Walter, Beede, and I are back. Walter, I know we meant to record this yesterday, but I think you was a little bit busy helping athletes and parents and coaches yesterday. And, I had a script today that I was going to ask you a bunch of questions about recruiting, but as we begin to visit before we started recording, I said, hey, this information is something these parents need to hear. So, Walter, let's just have a great conversation today. I know we talked a few minutes ago about, things that we see a lot of parents doing different. I know I confess one of the things I did wrong last year with Pearson. He went from high school baseball to playing in Houston the next day to Colorado to Missouri to San Diego, lost about 10 pounds, had a little tweak in his back from overuse and not recovering as much. You had great insight on that, what you would do different. I want to discuss that, but let's also talk about your day yesterday. Kind of walk us through a day of Walter Beede, and I think you said it was about a 15, 16 hour day. And the reason I want you to go through that is these parents need to have an understanding. I understand that a lot of our audience, Walter, is 12, 13, 14, 15, but they don't know what they don't know. And we really feel, I feel like you and I, our passion for the youth athletics, we need to kind of let them know what's coming ahead of them, what's really uh, what they have to not only look forward to, but what they need to prepare for. So let's start off by talking about what did your day look like as a Walter Beede yesterday?
Well, one of the things, Jeremy, that I think parents, like if I pull the curtain back, let's use the Wizard of Oz reference. We pull
Yeah.
the curtain back. Typically, a day will start for me early in the morning. I do my cardio and do the sauna and then come up and start my day. But yesterday, my phone was ringing at 7:30, 7:20. And this is a big week in college athletics. There's the College World Series that are going on at the JUCO levels, the NCAA Division III levels, obviously the regionals at the Division One level. And so when you're in a dead period, parents begin to panic because you don't hear from coaches. So that's normal. What isn't normal, what wasn't normal about my day yesterday was I get typically a lot of calls from college coaches. Again, they're early morning guys. They get up, they get after it, then they get outside. And a lot of it was, talking about the portal, talking about decisions that had to be made. Um, you know, there are a lot of high school boys, as I alluded to earlier when we were chatting. It's a little bit over 100 that I interact with college coaches and parents that we're going into the Division One realm beginning in the fall, starting to get ready to go on campus for summer, and they were told they're not going to be coming in. They're not going to be a part of the program. That they should probably begin to look, and that the coaches would help them. That's something that I do with a lot of college coaches. Is I help players, whether it's current student athletes on their roster or potential athletes that thought they might have been a fit. They'll basically allow me to help them find a landing spot.
Okay.
Um,
I don't want to interrupt you here, but I think it's necessary in those situations where those phone calls happen, where those athletes, the coaches just said, "Hey, we're going to move in a different direction." What would you say the majority of the reasoning behind that was? Was it the athlete just stopped pushing and stopped developing? Was it the colleges, finding something or think they're going to find something better out of the portal? Was it a mixture? That way, the parents, the reason I think this is important, Walter, I see it a lot where, an athlete gets an opportunity to play, he gets accepted, and almost it's like, I don't want to say, he quits, but he kind of just, oh, I'm there. I've arrived. And that's something that you can't have happen in today's world.
yeah, I think that's the biggest piece to the puzzle that we miss, and we don't discuss it in depth enough. We kind of glaze over the surface, but I'll tell you, it's a combination of two factors. The 5 and 5 is basically going to make college athletics older, and older means more mature. More mature means physical impact, whether it's on the mound or as a hitter or as a fielder. I think a lot of the really big topics that college coaches want me to kind of convey, out when I'm talking with families and athletes, is that physicality is probably the biggest misunderstood. It's not implemented soon enough in the process. And the reps come through games, but they're truncated games, meaning, they're hour and a half, they're hour and 45 minutes. They're really not truly indicative of the competitive nature. So to answer your question bluntly, just not prepared in several different capacities for the college game at that particular level, at the Division I level.
Okay. Go ahead and explain the new rule you're talking about. I know this is what you do every day. You know the rules inside and out, the 5 for 5. Explain that to the audience, what that really means, that new rule.
Well, on a simple basis, you're going to have 5 years from high school graduation, which is what I think it will ultimately be. I think they'll remove the age parameter associated with it within reason. I don't think they're going to allow it to go up to 21 and graduate from high school, but 19, 19 and a half, 20, 5 years. And there are no longer going to be hardship waivers or red shirt years for medical purposes. Whatever you can fit in within those 5, true, consistent, concurrent years after high school graduation. So on the surface, we begin to think about, okay, I have 5 years of eligibility. But really what that truly means, and we need to flip this around, Jeremy, which is what you and I do, is we need to look at the underbelly of what's happening here. And that is, parents need to understand within the roster caps, Division I NCAA is 34, Division II NCAA is 36. You're now going to have theoretically 5 classes, no longer 4. If it was tight at 4, what do you think is going to happen now with 5? So, in other words, we're not thinking about the freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, graduate year, if we're putting it in concurrent years. So college coaches now at the Division I, this is the other thing. Every parent's running around talking, screaming, 5 years, we're going to get a great, well, it's Division I. So let's look at it from Division I and work down. Division I, I'm now going to have 20 to 25-year-olds in theory to construct a roster of 34 at the Division I level. And now you're going to begin to see more than ever those Division III, Division II, and the NAIA students that have played 4 years. They're going to have a year of Division I if a Division I coach is so inclined. And, that athlete at the lower levels or different divisions has a desire and the skill to be a Division I athlete. That's the missing link that we're not paying enough attention to, because now if I'm looking at a high school athlete, but I can go get a Division III All-American that's played for 4 years, that has a resume at the collegiate level, that has some grit and some moxie and some skin on the road. Who am I going to take? That guy for 1 year that, I can bring up and plug in, or am I going to try to bring in the high school athlete? So that's what we're dealing with in reality now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, looking at KU's roster, have you paid attention to
Oh
them?
yeah.
They
Yeah.
brought in all JUCO boys.
Yeah. Dan does a great job. Now, Lamar,
Yeah,
somebody that's in your neck of the woods, that's
yeah,
about to take over at Houston. Will Davis, brilliant baseball man. His dad was a tremendous baseball guy, LSU. And, here comes Will at Lamar, quietly assembling great teams year after year in the Southland Conference. Now he's going to go to the Big 12. Well, how has he built that? Well, he's built that off of the athletes that have gone to JUCO that have been seasoned.
yeah,
And that's really what's transpiring now across all Division I athletics, not just baseball.
yeah. Yeah, I was talking to a parent the other day, and they asked about Pearson, and they said, "How come he's just going JUCO?" And I just kind of laughed. I'm like, D1 JUCO is an awesome place for people to be, and the days of hoping your son is going D1 and starting as a freshman, Walter, that's not going to happen very often. And what would you say if a parent said, "Why is your son just going D1 JUCO?" How would you answer that?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you point blank, and even if I didn't know Jeremy or Pearson Fouts, Division One JUCO athletics, again, all sports. I'm not going to just say baseball, is for the big boys that are
Yep.
going to go get a resume put together. So a college coach is not. They're in that position at the Division One level because they're really good at what they do: roster construction and evaluation. And before parents kick back, and not every coach. I get it, not every coach, but
Right.
all coaches. My point is, Division One JUCO athletics is where you're going to really face elite elite athletes. And whether we're talking Weatherford, McClellan, San Jacinto, LSU Eunice, I mean, I can go on and on, Northern Iowa. We could talk for days, but JUCO at the Division One level is on par, if not better than probably the vast majority. Bear in mind, we have over 300 Division One NCAA baseball programs. Division One JUCO is probably vastly superior and has more depth than a Division One mid-major or several of, I would say maybe 200 of the Division One schools would find it difficult to compete with a Division One JUCO baseball program. Heads up, you're
Yeah.
talking about elite talent.
Absolutely. Walter, we're going to take a quick break. And I know before we started recording today, we talked about some things, like I mentioned at the beginning, that maybe I did wrong as a parent, playing way too many games with Pearson before he went into his senior year, lost some weight, tweaked his back. I know you and I really understand the mistakes that most parents are making, maybe not starting their son early enough on a meal plan, a nutrition approach on lifting, things like that. That way, when they get to 16, 17, they're at that weight. So let's take a quick break, and then I want to turn it over to you to kind of walk the parents through the things they need to be focusing on. That way, somebody like you can help them. That way, when they get that, scholarship, they hold that scholarship and go play at that school. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Athletes, electrolytes matter, but you got to choose the right electrolytes. If you look at the sugars, 34 grams, the dyes, all the things that's not good for you in this product, this is a hype product. If you look here at the electrolytes made by Corvive, it's got the right amount of magnesium, sodium, potassium, zinc, kosher salt. It's got vitamin C to help with the immune system. I'm telling you, if you want to stay on the field, you want to perform at your best, you want to recover well, this is the product that you need to choose to fuel your body as an athlete.
Well, Walter, I know at the beginning, before we started recording, we was talking about this, and we had a great conversation. I wish we had been recording earlier, but I've made mistakes as a parent. You don't know what you don't know. This is pretty much my life. This is what I've got a great friend in you who have mentored Pearson and I, and told us some of the things that we shouldn't do. And of course, sometimes us parents don't listen. We make these mistakes of playing too much during the summer, not focusing on the right things. Kind of walk me through, if you was kind of walking the parents that's listening, the process, and that's why we do this podcast, what we should really focus on as our kids are going from freshman to sophomore to junior into senior year and getting ready to play at the next level.
Well, it's interesting. As we were talking earlier, on social media, I get a lot of interaction and discussion, and you and I were just chopping it up a little bit. And a parent came right out and asked me, "Hey, if you had to do it all over again, what mistakes did you make, or what mistakes would you try to avoid?" And the biggest mistake that I can tell you definitively, first, and this is not an angst or an axe to grind with travel ball. Let's just separate that completely. But what I would do, and what I did, to be perfectly honest with you, was when my boys, particularly my youngest son, when he was 14 and he was a freshman in high school, I was told by Rich Gedman, who was a catcher for the Red Sox, he said, the best thing you can do for Tyler is find a strength coach that can begin to allow him to understand how to move weight and the purpose and why it's important to move weight. And best advice I ever got and the best connection that I was ever given was with Eric Cressy. Now there's, Ben Fairchild, there's Tommy Moffitt. You and I have talked to a whole bunch of them. And the reason why that paid dividends is I throttled back on travel events and really allowed him to stay local, doing things in a local capacity, American Legion, Senior Little League, things that allowed him to be around his friends, but more importantly, allowed him to have a consistent plan as it pertained to nutrition and strength training. Now, fast forward to today. What mistake did I make out of that? Well, once he began to gain some kind of, he began to ascend within the world of travel athletics. And I tell parents, when my son was his first year on a national travel team that I will not name, he pitched one inning. Over the course of the next 3 weeks, we returned home, got into his routine again, which was critical, attended a really obscure event, but there happened to be college coaches. And what had happened was he went from 85, 86 to 90, 92. There was no advance warning. There was no light that came on and said, attention, attention, your son is about to throw 90. But when that happened, said travel team suddenly couldn't get enough of him and was calling, hey, can he come back and pitch in this event? No, he can't. That ship has sailed. And my point is that beginning his junior year, it was chaos. And again, if I now look back and say, well, Walt, what's the mistake? Well, now let's plug in, he attended Vanderbilt. If I go back and look at his Vanderbilt season, he was not prepared properly to be in and around men. And let's face it, if we're going to talk about this process, and you and I do so several times, we talk to coaches, we talk to parents. College coaches are looking for men, mature-minded, mature physically men. And when he went into Vanderbilt, it was, here's the college coach who's a good friend. Tim Corbin's a good friend. He basically said, well, maybe you need to leave. Maybe you need to go to JUCO. Maybe you need to kind of reassess where you want to head because you need to be ready for this environment. It's right. Not going to get any easier. So I would say the biggest mistake that we as parents continuously make is we seek validation through a perception and a narrative that is antiquated. There's no way around saying it any nicer. It's antiquated. The reality is, in today's world, it's a ocean. And if you're not preparing in an ocean and you're thinking about, well, we'll just stay in our little pocket of travel and we'll play these 6 weeks and then we'll go on vacation, you're missing opportunities to get better while other people are snoozing. You should be seizing that moment in those months and those weeks during the May through November or May through January. You need to be seizing those moments where you can move ahead and move beyond your personal level of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell parents all the time, Walter, you and I both, we get questions asked, when is it time to start a nutrition plan and strength training? And, you and I was talking before, I'm excited to maybe trying to put together a course with you, to kind of walk these parents through that. And I'll let you kind of explain your vision on that here in a second. But I think the key is starting early, 13, 14, 15, 16, get your body and your mind in a spot where when you're junior and senior, you're not having to chase to gain 30 more pounds. You're not having to chase to get a little bit stronger. Yes, you're going to continue to get stronger if you put in work just through the maturity process. But if you had to create the whole process and put it all together, to kind of walk these parents and these athletes through, how would you try to put that together, and what would that process look like as far as putting together a guide of what they need to do throughout these steps?
Well, the ideas have been floating in my head now for a little over a year once I saw this train getting on the track and about to move forward. And that is, when we're talking to parents, we're talking in snippets of 20 to 30 minutes approximately.
Right.
You see a short clip or a longer clip, or you see a post on a social media platform, and you're getting like just this little taste, but you're really not gaining the depth behind the point. And so my thought process has been and will continue to be, in today's world of online learning, which the colleges now do it, everyone is learning online. And, sure, you can use an AI model and you can begin to look at what the direct responses are. But what parents are missing, and what parents truly need to understand, is having an independent resource, someone that doesn't have skin in the game, meaning they're not benefiting from, let's just say, the lessons, the travel, the
Right.
hotels, the food. There's a lot of ancillary ways that folks generate income through travel athletics, not just baseball. There's deals with hotels, there's deals with restaurants, there's deals with airlines. There's all kinds of things that go on. But I think a course that would allow parents to understand the realities of beginning at that 13 or 14 years of age and what is important during each age and stage. Like, I have a book behind me called The Process. And in that book, there's ages and stages. And it's like a PDF. And I talk about here's 14, here's 15, here's 16, really freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, et cetera. And I think that needs to be expanded. I think we need to spend time really giving parents in-depth factual
Right.
information, direct from the college coaches, direct from the strength coaches, direct from the nutrition side of things from Corvive and Jeremy Fouts. That is something that I think is critical. If you think about, parents think nothing of buying a lesson package. And again, pick your sport: soccer, tennis, golf.
Right.
A lesson package can run anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500, and you get 10 to 20 lessons. Okay, how about a package that literally is going to be with you for the duration of your student athlete from the ages of 13 and 14 all the way up and through college?
Yeah.
Now, what would that be worth? And so if you keep it affordable and you share quality, consistently updated to the day information, what is that worth? And so I've talked to my son, Tyler. He's going to talk about, and he's going to be a part of our course. He's going to talk about being the athlete at 13 all the way through and up and through the big leagues, the ebbs and the flows, the highs and the lows. We'll have college coaches, and college coaches are going to talk about today,
Right.
the today game, and into the future. Where is it going? Where is it headed? Major league scouts. What are we looking for? What are we looking at? How are we evaluating? So if parents have that information and in that content, I believe they're educated. The elimination of fear and the implementation of what I call that fun, enjoyable ride
Right.
of the 8th grade through senior year of high school. I think that will really tremendously benefit and be a resource that parents can rely on.
Yeah, I think it'll be powerful, of removing that anxiety, Walter, from these parents and these athletes. Yesterday, kind of like you, I was extremely busy, and I probably talked to 7 or 8 incoming juniors, and they was worried big time about the interest that's going to be shown in them from a college recruiting perspective. And I just told them, I said, hey, what we got to focus on is you every day. Can we get up and do our weights in the morning? Can we drink our water? Can we eat our food? Can we hit our lifts with purpose? Can we do our arm care? Can we go to the games and that we are going to be playing this summer and focus on being the best we can be there? And I really wanted to put emphasis with the athletes I'm working on right now is your summertime can be a time that you beat the competition. And I'll get your perspective on this, but here's what I see a lot of times with athletes, and I didn't intend to go here, but I think the conversation has led us to this point, is I see a lot of my high school athletes and even the younger athletes, they'll play video games till 1, then they get up at 10:30 or 11. They're tired. They did not eat good the night before. They pick at their breakfast. If they do go do a lift, they don't get the most out of the lift because they didn't fuel before. Then they might have a summer baseball game, come back, grab some chicken nuggets. They'll jump on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram. Then they start playing games again in that whole process. What would you tell these athletes that are going through this summer? Because this junior, about to be a junior, he shouldn't be worried about, in my opinion, who's going to call him in August. He should be worried about, if I put him on a program of 1,000-calorie surplus, he can gain 2 pounds a week. In 10 weeks, he's 20 pounds heavier. And then we can fuel before our lifts. We can work at our speed training drills to get faster. What message would you say to this incoming junior, or maybe even incoming senior, that maybe is worried that, man, no one's interested in me? Should we focus on who's interested in us, or should we focus on winning every day, as many days as we can?
Yeah, the biggest thing my day yesterday, if I had to sum it up in one kind of visual, back in the days when I was a kid, you'd see telephone operators, they'd be plugging in telephone lines, unplugging telephone, and they'd have headphones on, and they'd be I tell parents the number one thing right now is I need you to unplug from anything and everything you're currently plugged into. Like, you need to literally unplug. Just unwind yourself. Now take a deep breath and let's talk about the realities. The realities is we put these false kind of dates out there that we feel like the green flag is dropping, which for rising high school juniors is August 1st for baseball players, September 1st for softball players. And we think, okay, our phone's going to ring and light up like a Christmas tree. It doesn't happen. And nor should it, to be perfectly honest. And when parents will say, well, why not? Well, because do you want to be like the 4 or 5 athletes I talked to yesterday that got a call that have already graduated high school and were packing their bags, getting ready to go to school A or B, and they were told, hey, there's no room at the inn. Sorry. Now what do we do? Well,
Right.
that's what I'm trying to say. It's a false kind of sense of security. And, I get this a lot from moms. Moms worry about safety and security, right? Dads are worried about statistics and validation. And moms are all about, safety and security. And so what I try to get parents to understand is, if you spend days, and Jeremy and I will say stack days, if you spend your days not worry about who's looking, who's watching, who's going to contact me, and instead focus on the day at hand, the tasks at hand, stack your days. And what we're doing here, Jeremy, and I've used this term repeatedly in the last 24 hours, is I also try to get parents to understand the visual. When we start to talk, coaches see a floor.
Right.
What's the floor? Okay, well, they're a Division III, possibly potentially Division II, maybe a ceiling, a high mid-major. What we want to do is every single week, every single month, we want to be cranking the floor up. We want to
Love it.
move that floor up. And if we just focus on moving our floor up, well, what does that mean? Okay, you're 168, you're 172. Let's get our floor to 185, and let's now see where we're at.
Right.
I mean, your exit velocity. Every parent wants to talk to me about exit velocity. I can't tell you how many parents come at me with videos in exit velocity. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the college coaches are saying, hey, well, I'm looking for ball strike percentage. Like, what's the K to walk percentage? What's the strike zone awareness? But what's the ball strike, the barrel? What's his barrel percentage? Like, if he's getting barrels, I don't really care about the exit velocity because I know that he's got a good eye-hand coordination. So parents are being kept in the dark because underinformed parents are, okay, where do I got to go? What do I got to do? And they're whipping credit cards out. So when you start to talk about that, it's about stacking days, and you need to stack your days all the way into your senior year, because then as a senior, you're making what I call quantifiable, informed decisions. Okay, I'm 190 and I'm on my way to 200. So now I know I can play here.
Right.
And I got to start finding that fit. And I always call it the focus fit. And the focus part of it is, okay, let's talk about the academics, the geographics, and all of the components to the campus. And then let's get the baseball. And for some, like Pearson, when parents say, well, I'm just going to go to a JUCO. Okay, well, they're saying that thinking they've been programmed to think, well, it's just JUCO. My son can go from high school directly to JUCO. Incorrect. It's not. Division III, incorrect. So my point to you is stack days and don't worry about anything else. Where are you doing? Where is the floor heading? Is the direction here? Is it just staying flat, plateauing? You don't want it to regress, but you want that day to raise your floor each and every day.
Yep. Yeah, I sent out a newsletter to my athletes, I think Monday on Memorial Day, and I talked about getting that excitement like Christmas morning. And that's what these athletes need to do throughout the summer and every day. I gave an example, Walter. I said, at 5, 6 years old, no one had to wake you up
Right.
on Christmas morning. I mean, you was crawling down the hallway. You had 2 boys. You remember that. That was some of my best times ever.
Amen.
I mean, that was just, they would crawl down at 5 o'clock and you'd say, get to bed. And then they come back and then they do the same. And then I told them, though, I was like, why was that? And every one of them, the athletes that I talked to, they said, because I was excited to get my presents. And the way I kind of explain it to my athletes, Walter, and I'll let you try to bring this out to hopefully these parents, let these athletes listen to this, is I say every day is a gift. You have a gift every day to bounce out of bed with excitement, to go get your water, to go get your food, to look at your breakfast and say, no, I don't have to eat my breakfast. I get an opportunity to eat my breakfast. I get an opportunity to go lift, to go do some arm care. So how would you just bring some more life into that to these student athletes? I love what you said. Unplug from everything. Don't worry about the distractions. Don't look at a boy on X and say, why is he getting offered and I'm not? Why is he, going to area code and I'm not? Why is he getting, recognition? How would you just end this podcast called The Process of just giving life to get up every day and go to work?
The biggest thing is it's really about enjoying where you are in life today, because we can't go back and touch in any capacity yesterday. We cannot in any capacity reach out for tomorrow or foresee what tomorrow will bring us. But what we're controlling is our now, is our present tense now. And when I really look around the landscape, fear is the number one weapon that some adults will use in order to keep that carrot. Okay, well, maybe your son doesn't like carrots. Maybe he doesn't like broccoli. And when I say that, parents will, what does that have to do with this topic? And I'll say, okay, what you don't understand is what lies ahead is 4 a.m. wake-up calls and strength training. And, maybe he doesn't like getting up at 4 a.m. What lies ahead is a 16-hour day, 6 days a week, 10 months a year. Maybe he doesn't like not having a social life. Maybe he likes to hang out with the guys. Maybe he wants to spend more time with his girlfriend. We don't know what he will or will not like. We do not know what he's really preparing for, but we have to prepare today. How can we best prepare ourselves physically, mentally, athletically, academically for in today? And so parents must understand, do what others are not doing and free your body, your mind. But most importantly, you just hit the nail on the head, Jeremy. We as parents lose sight of time, and we don't maximize or give it enough thought as far as a resource. We give it all away. We plan ahead and we go into this tournament. We got to get a hotel. We got to get a rent a car. We got to book a flight. And all we're doing is taking time away from our children. And when parents look back, and I go through this now, I could show you a million texts from just yesterday of parents that are graduating college, and they look back and their children now are men or women. I wish I could go back on those car rides. I wish I could go back and spend time on our family vacation. I wish I could go back. And what they wish they could do is get back the time when their children were all around them.
Yes.
Because when these children become adults, they fly. And they typically do not fly back into your nest or my nest. And so don't give away that resource. Take back that time. Take back those moments. Take back your family environment. Take it back. Control your narrative. Make sure it's about you. When I say you, as a family, and allow your children to recognize the strength in family, the strength in the faith, the strength in their preparation. They're going to get to where they want to go. But you don't need to go jump in a car and go spend a whole weekend in a different state with a whole bunch of people with red Solo cups and think, well, we're moving this floor up. Well, you're not moving the floor up. You're having a heck of a time socially, but you're not moving the floor. Move the floor up every single day. And ultimately, you'll be on the top floor where you're trying to be, and the ceiling will be right there. Instead of everybody else's floor is here, and they have all this runway they're trying to catch up. Move the floor every single day.
Walter Beede, amazing wisdom, amazing insight. You are the best in the business. And it's an honor and a privilege to be hosting this podcast, The Process, with you. If parents want to get in contact with you, kind of give us some of your other channels that you are on in a way for them to get in contact with you.
Well, it's Coach Beede all over the social media landscape, Walter at CoachBeede.com or CoachBeede.com. But I'm going to end on this, Jeremy. We gave parents a really small insight to what's coming. And I'm not saying this from a sales perspective, but and I'm going to really be careful here. Curriculum is important based on how it's disseminated and who it's being disseminated by. And I really feel parents, when I say Jeremy, myself, and a few others are going to put together a course, this is going to be a master's degree level course, not expensive,
right,
but full of information. And I want parents to understand that's going to happen, and you want to tap into that as a resource for you as a family, not just your student athlete.
Love it, Walter. I went to go hit last night with Pearson to get some videos, and, just looking around at all the cages of the boys 12, 13, 14. And I love it that they're in there, right? I'd rather them be in those cages than at home playing a video game. But my mind, the way it goes is how many of these parents and these athletes are going to go home and eat a good dinner? How many's going to get a smoothie at night for recovery? How many's going to get 9 hours of sleep? So all these things in this course is something I'm really excited about. What kind of weight should they be lifting at 14, and how should they be lifting, because I know you've got some relationships that we've had on the podcast and you're wanting to bring into that course as well, but also just that guidance of walking those parents from someone like you that's been there. I've been there, walking them through every step of that process. So
I think the biggest thing people have to know, Jeremy, is when people want information, what do? They go to YouTube and they're looking for self-help. The biggest channels on social media are those that allow you to fix something on your own, whether it's your lawnmower, tune up your car, change your oil, whatever it might be. Do it yourself.
Yes.
Nobody, and I mean nobody, can do what the information that we have between us as parents, as people within the industry, but more importantly, the resources that we have, we simply need to share with others.
Walter Beede, we are going to share it with others. You and I have that passion. We're not working 15, 16 hours a day because we have to. We enjoy it and we get to. And it's an honor and a privilege. Guys, thank you for joining us on this podcast, The Process. Share it with your friends or family. I feel like this has been a powerful podcast to make sure parents know exactly the process of leading their student athlete through this journey that they're on. So thank you guys. Walter, thank you again.